Disclaimer, I don't think I'm some pro mixer. I'm just a musician and I mix my own stuff. And these are some things that made my mixes sound a lot better, especially in regards to guitars. So first off, why would you want to layer your guitar parts? To me, the most important thing is that it sounds so much better. Everything sounds bigger, wider, there's more depth. It could just take a simple part and make it just better. That's the main reason why. Another reason is it gives you a lot of flexibility in your songwriting. Let's say you have a big power chord chorus part. During different choruses, you can emphasize different things. Basically, it makes it sound better and it gives you more choices. All right, so for my approach, there are two important things. Number one, you want to have each layer in different registers of the guitar. Easy way to think about this is just you want to have the layers on different strings. Like you don't want to play a power chord down here, for example, and then for the third, move it over here. What you should do is have the low power chord, and then you can move the other one up an octave. And that just makes it a lot easier to sit on top of each other. Number two, you want to use different tones for each layer. They don't have to be drastically different, but you don't want everything sounding the same. So this can be different amps, different cabs, different microphones, different guitars. For example, for me, I like to use the Royer 121 on the low end, and then for the higher parts, I use the SM57 Impulse. All right, so let's get started. We're just using a simple chord progression on the low string. And then we're going to go up octaves and thirds to make it sound bigger. All right, so here we go. This is a song that I've been working on called Devil in the Dress. I'm just gonna play it through first and then we'll build it up all the way from the beginning. We have a couple of different layers. First, the chord progression on the low E string. Here's how that sounds by itself. For the tone for this, I'm using Line 6 Modern. I'm using the Badonk, which is like a dual or a triple rec simulator. I'm not sure which one, but it's awesome. For the bottom layer, you really don't need that much mids. That's not where we want to emphasize the mids. For the bottom layer, I just want the low end, which is the bass, and then some of the bite for the treble. I'm using 121 impulse responses. You want that fat bottom end, you want that badonk. Up next, we have the same chord progression, just moved up an octave. This is what that sounds like by itself. For this tone, I'm using the same amp, but I am boosting it with this. It's supposed to be like a Klon. And I turned up the mids. I wanted to emphasize this layer in the mids of the whole guitar bus. Lastly, I'm using a SM57 Impulse. Let's go ahead and play those two together so you can sort of see where they fit in. When you turn off the higher chords, you can really see the difference. Like, it's night and day. Oh, let's put that again. Off. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I have a limiter on it right now, so everything's sort of sitting at the same level. Alright, next up, I have some single note lines. They're following the same chord progression, except one side is a third above, the other side is a fifth. So let's listen to that. For this, I used basically the same tone as the previous layer. I just compressed it a little bit more because it was single notes. Right here, I came in and EQ'd it. I completely took out the low end on this one. We can see how it sounds with and without it really quickly. Now I know what you're thinking. It sounds way worse with the EQ. In isolation, that's true, but if you're sticking it in a mix with a whole bunch of other guitars, it doesn't really matter how it sounds like by itself. You just want it to sound good with everything else. Saying that, let's hear it with everything else. You can tell that it's there because it sounds different. The high end is higher when you're playing it all together, but I don't think you can like individually notice those notes, and that's what you really want to go for when you're layering it together. You don't want it to sound like separate parts. You want it to all sound like one fat, huge guitar sandwich. We also have some reverb and delay on those single note lines. Let's hear the difference with and without the reverb and delay. So this is without. And I'm gonna add it right here. I think it's a pretty subtle change. We have these little octave-y guitars. Let's listen to those. These are basically exactly the same settings as the single note lines. I did EQ them a little bit differently. I took out the lows, took out some mids, and gave it a pretty aggressive high cut at 5K. I don't know if I necessarily needed to do all that, but that's what I ended up with. Let's hear those together. Again, it's one of those things where you don't necessarily hear it, but when it's gone, you realize that something's not there. I'm not sure if that's coming across on the screen recording, but I can really hear a difference in my headphones. Last, and this is not something that I always do, and this isn't something that you necessarily want to do depending on the arrangement of the song, but some altar boy chords. I just took the main chord progression and I put it in a little altar boy and brought it down an octave. So here's this. So let's hear all the guitars together. One thing I like about that little altar boy trick is that it sort of matches the bass. So you're sort of getting like a stereo image of the bass instead of being straight down the middle. That's how I built everything up. We're gonna hear it in the context of a mix. We're gonna start with the core chord progression, and then every couple of bars, I'm gonna add more layers to it to see if we can hear a difference. One thing that you do want to look out for is the mid-range can get really muddy. That's where the buildup in the frequency range is gonna be. Usually for me, it's about 400 to 1,000. I just wanna cut a whole bunch of that out. I'll show you how I do that. All right, so we're just gonna play it through, and then I'm just gonna do some simple cuts, and we'll see that it makes it sit in the mix way better. And this isn't necessarily something that you have to do, it's just something that I like to do to make everything fit in the mix better. If you want guitars up in your mix, there's no reason to cut any of this stuff out because that's what you like about the guitars. I want to make space for the body of the vocal and the songs that I record. It's important to cut out that big boxy mid buildup. Alright, so that's it. Thank you for watching this video. This was just a quick little walkthrough of how I layer my guitars. Some people have DM'd me on Instagram asking how I do it, so this is for you guys. If anybody wants a more in-depth version of this, just let me know and I'll be happy to make one. And I can walk through why I make certain choices in regards to like amp stems and impulses and stuff like that. If you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe. I'm huge. Thank you for watching my video again. Until next time. Sing, Lucky.